Okay, so now it's time for our first coding activity. Hopefully you are now logged into Scratch, you've created an account, and you're ready to start coding. So the first thing that we're going to want to do is we're going to go up into the top left corner here, and we're going to click on this Create button. And this will allow us to start our code. Now, for those of you who aren't familiar with Scratch before, I'm just going to go through some of the basics. If you have coded in Scratch before, you might want to skip forward a little bit until we actually start seeing the code. But for the rest of you, coding in Scratch kind of happens in 4 different areas on your screen. So you can see that here on the left, there we go, these are all of our code blocks. These are the actual instructions that we're giving our computer. Here in the middle, kind of behind my head, you see this is where we are putting all of the code. This is where we'll actually end up writing it, where we'll drag the blocks into. Over here in the top right-hand corner is where our sketch, or kind of like our canvas, is. This is where the output from our program is, and this is where we will actually be able to see our program run. And finally, down here in the bottom right, we have a bunch of controls that allow us to change what sprite we're working with, allow us to change our background, allow us to change where our sprite is, how big it is, etc. So let's get right into it. So what we're going to be making today is a game where we have a little ball that follows our mouse around, and we're going to try to use our mouse to drag it across the screen without touching any of the boundaries, any of these black lines that we are going to end up making. So the first thing that we're going to want to end up doing is deleting this first sprite, the sprite one here. We're going to be making a different one instead. So you can see that I could just hover over it and click on that garbage can there. And then I'm going to go and choose a new sprite. Now I'm going to choose a ball, but you can choose any sprite here. I would encourage it to be something that's round though. So I have my ball, and the very first thing that I'm going to do is start coding it so that my ball will follow my mouse around when I move it. So the first thing I'm going to want to do is go into the left here, into my tabs for the code. And I'm going to go and click on one that is yellow and it says events. And it's going to be the very first one there. It's when green flag is clicked. And the green flag, you can see, is kind of up here above our sketch. And that is how we actually start running our program. That's kind of like the play button. So I want my ball to start following my mouse around whenever I start the program. Each sprite actually has an X and a Y coordinate associated with it. So what I'm going to do is, to get my ball to follow my mouse around, I'm going to keep setting my ball's XY coordinate to wherever my mouse is. And to do that, I can first go into this blue motion tab here. And in that blue motion tab, one of the ones, it says go to X, Y. So this is where it'll actually change the coordinates of where our ball is. So I'm going to go and drag and drop that into my program. But I don't want to just go to any XY coordinates. I want to go to my mouse's XY coordinates. So luckily, I can find that under the Sensing tab here on the left. And I can find ones that say mouse X and mouse Y. So I am going to go and drag those in. All right, so now if I press on the green flag, then the ball should go to wherever my mouse X and my mouse Y coordinates are. So if I do this, I'm going to go and click on this green flag. Hey, and you can see it worked. It moved up to the top left corner, to the closest place that it could go to. But right now, if I move my mouse around, you can see that the ball isn't following it around. And I want you to pause the video for just 1 second and see if you can figure out on your own why this ball isn't following around our mouse. Okay, so now that you've done that, and don't worry if you weren't able to figure it out, because this is a very common problem that happens when you first write computer code. And one thing about computer code is that unless we tell the computer to repeat something, it's only going to ever run each instruction once. So what's happening here is that when I click my run button, it is running my code, but it's only doing it one time. It's only moving to my mouse X and my mouse Y once. So what I have to do is put it in some sort of loop. And a loop is what allows us to repeat our code multiple times. And luckily, Scratch makes this very easy for us. On the left-hand side here, there is an orange tab called Control. And we can go and hover over that and click it. And you'll see that there's one that is called Forever. And this is what we're going to be doing for today, because we want our ball to follow our mouse X and our mouse Y around always. You can see that there's another type of loop as well called repeat, but we're not going to be talking about that today. So now if I click on this green flag and move my mouse around, you can see that my ball is following around my mouse. Yay! First step of our program done. Now let's move on to the next step of our program. So what we're going to want to do here is start adding in a background and start adding in some black lines in our background that we have to avoid. So I'm going to stop my program here and then go into the bottom right-hand corner of my screen and click on this backdrop here. So this backdrop, you can also write code in it, but we're not going to be doing that today. Where we want to go is into the top left corner here. You can see there's a tab that's name is backdrops. And so I'm going to go and click on that, and that allows us to draw our own custom background. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go select the paint brush, and then I'm going to make sure to fill it with the color black. So I'm going to click on that color. I'm just going to drag the brightness down to 0. That will give us a nice black color. And then I am going to start drawing. Now, an important thing to note is that when you click the green flag, your ball will move to the top left corner. So we want to make sure that when that we start our little maze, our little obstacle course here from the top left corner. So I'm just going to drag this. I'm just drawing this with my mouse. Maybe I'll make it do something like this, where you have to go down and up, and you can see there's a couple of portions that might get a little narrow there, which is perfect. Okay, so we have our background drawn now, but if we go and we click the run button, right, nothing happens when we touch the sides yet, because we haven't told the computer to do anything yet. So let's make that our next step. Let's make the program stop whenever we go and we touch the sides of our lines here. So I'm going to go and I'm going to click on my ball again. And make sure that you do go and click on your ball, because if you're still on the background, then you'll be writing code for your background, and it's not going to work. So click on your ball, and then go up into the top left corner and click code. And you should see the code here that you originally wrote. So what we're going to do now is we're going to start using these if, then, else statements to check where our ball is and what we should be doing, what we want the computer to do at that point in time. So I'm going to drag in this if, then, else. And I'm just going to put it below our go to X, our go to mouse X and mouse Y for right now, but we're going to be moving that around in a second. So what I want to check is if I am touching one of the black lines, then I want the game to be over, is what we're going for here. So what I'm going to do is go into this blue sensing tab again, and I'm going to ask, am I touching a certain color? And you can see I can just drag and drop that into the little space there in the F. Then I'm going to go and choose the color black. So if I'm touching the color black, then what I am going to do is I'm actually going to get my little ball here to say that it's game over. And we can do that by going into the purple looks tab. And you can see there's one that says say hello. So I'm going to drag and drop that in. But I'm going to double click it, and instead of saying hello, I'm going to say game over, and then a little sad face. Okay, so let's see if this works now. So look at this. Hey, look, whenever I touch the side, you can see if I did that, then it'll say game over. Perfect. Okay, but we can still move our mouse and our mouse around and have our ball follow even after we've touched the line. So we want to move where our go-to X, mouse X and Y are. So to do that, I'm just gonna kind of click it and move it out here for a second. We kind of got behind there, but basically I want to get it into that else statement here. So now when I run the program, if I touch the side, it doesn't work. Or sorry, it does work. It doesn't follow my mouse around anymore, which is what we wanted it to do because we wanted the game to be over. So our game is now working, but there's going to be one thing here that we didn't consider. And again, I want you to pause the video and see if you can figure out there's a bug in our code right now. Maybe you want to try running the game again and seeing what happens. Okay, so now hopefully you've done that and you've seen what happens when we try to run the program again. If I stop the program and start, it just says instantly game over. Oh no! Now, the reason for this, right, is because we ended the game touching the black color. And then we start the next one saying, well, if you're touching a black color, then it's game over. And we never reset where our ball was going to be. So what we can do for this is I am actually going to go and duplicate this go to X, Y block. And I can do that just by right-clicking and then clicking duplicate. And I am going to move that outside of my forever loop. So that means that this will happen once at the beginning of my program, and then every time after that, so long as I'm not touching a black line. And here we go. Oh no! Let's see if I can make it to the end here. Not quite. We'll try one more time. Okay, I made it a little bit hard for myself right now, but that is okay because our game is right now working. And if this is your first time doing something in Scratch, or maybe you're teaching some younger elementary school grades, this would be a great place to stop. And you could probably have a lot of fun making different backgrounds and different obstacle courses and everything like that. One thing I am going to show you before you go is if you accidentally made your game a little bit too hard, maybe like I did here, it's a little bit narrow there. What you can do is you can also go and decrease the size of your sprite just by changing this number. And it's just a percentage. So maybe I want it to maybe be like 70% of the size. And that seems a little bit better. Now when I go through here, I'm able to make it through. So you can change this to make the game as hard or as easy as you'd like. And as I said, you can have lots of fun just with this amount of code by making new backdrops and everything like that.